The big news in the Babish world is that the team is going to Japan next month. We'll be spending a few weeks exploring and, of course, making new episodes. An important component of international travel like this is being able to use your phone like normal, which is where today's sponsor Saily comes in. Saily is an eSIM service app brought to you by Nord Security. Visit the Saily site, get set up, and use your phone as you please. No looking for unsecured public Wi-Fi or high roaming charges. Go to saily.com/Babish to test it out for yourself for free.
The Great British Baking Show is back for season 35, I don't know. And I want to celebrate by doing something I've always dreamt of doing on this show, a technical challenge. I want to make that chocolate cake from the opening credits, the one with the raspberries on top, the one missing raspberry. And last season, that was one of the technical challenges in the first episode, in fact. So I thought, why not recreate both the cake and the entire experience? So for this challenge, the bakers were given 2 hours. 2 hours seems like a hilariously short amount of time to bake a cake, and I'm not exactly what you'd call a proficient baker. So we'll see how this goes. Just like in the show, you've got 2 hours. On your marks, get set, bake. I gotta get the cake in the oven first, because the cake's gotta fully bake and fully cool in order for me to frost them. All right, let's just start measuring. 150 grams of unsalted butter, diced. Prue, they need to get the butter nice and soft. It's positively scrubby. 175 grams of 54% dark chocolate. Got 125 ml of sour cream. That's getting whisked together with 50 ml of vegetable oil. 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, those crazy Brits. And 3 medium eggs. Okay, that's all the liquids. So this needs to be whisked together. And then I can go melt that other crap. Beautiful. All right, now I have to very gently melt this chocolate and butter because I have to add it to this mixture, and this has eggs in it. So if the chocolate and butter's too hot, it's gonna cook the eggs. Never been so nervous in my life. I signed up for this. I am going to let it cool just for a hot, sweet minute, just because, again, eggs. All right. Looking good. Okay, so first I'm sifting in 150 grams of granulated sugar. Got to get cracking here. Righto, jolly good show. Now 150 grams of light brown sugar. Okay. Oh, I'm supposed to add the sugar to this. Whoops. Right in, see? Make sure there's no lumps. Bakers, you've only got half an hour left. Oh, half an hour, better get cracking. So, it calls for self-rising flour, which is apparently a lot more popular in the UK. 50 grams of cacao powder, 1.5 teaspoons of baking soda, 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I'm gonna do a 1/2 teaspoon. I know better than the recipe. Way too big a bowl. Hilariously oversized bowl. Gently folding the dries into the wets. I like the way that looks. I like the way that feels. Time to get them in the oven. I have no idea for how long these bake. That's what's gonna screw me. I don't know how long cakes bake for. Parchment paper rounds for the boys. No going back, baby. No going back. Get these guys nice and even. There we go. Give them a little kiss for good luck. Maybe not. And just put them in the oven. See guys, cooking is easy. Okay, gonna clean up my workstation a little bit, and I have to straight away get cracking, make the ganache. 300 grams, 54% dark chocolate, 25 grams of butter. Now, 450 ml of heavy cream. This heavy cream, not bringing it to a boil, just little bubbles around the edge and in the center, that's scalding it. That's just enough to get it hot where it's gonna melt everything, but it's not boiling. Otherwise, the ganache could break. Now, this is yet another element that needs to cool completely before I can actually assemble the cake. The ganache needs to be cool, the cakes need to be cool, otherwise the whole thing's gonna, I think Prue used the word splooge. No, she didn't, that can't be right, that can't be right. Well, these cakes are rising nicely, that's a good sign. I think this screams scalding, Steve, what do you think?
Can't see it, but I trust your eyes.
I trust your judgment. Here comes the scalding cream. Ups. There we go. I'm gonna give it a little mix just to let everybody get to know each other. And then I'm gonna let it sit. One of my biggest fears in life is breaking ganache, and I've done it way too many times. And I have a feeling I'm gonna do it right now. Let's not will that into the universe. I'm gonna make a perfectly smooth, velvety, shiny ganache. I'm manifesting it. Oh. Oh, no, I couldn't possibly. Well, it'll make me a star. I'm gonna give this a little fold. Yeah, there's definitely a bunch of unmelted chocolate in there. So I'm going to very gently heat it, because if I overheat it, it'll break like that. All this to be said, I don't trust the consistency of this ganache at all. So I'm going to make another batch after this. Calling it. That stays there. Let's do another one. I think I'm gonna do a little more chocolate. I'll up the chocolate by, it's supposed to be what, 300 grams? I'm gonna do 400. 25 grams of butter, another 450 mil of heavy cream. Splodging out the sides. That's what she said. Wonder if this chocolate's not small enough.
Chop it up.
Much smaller pieces, which should help it melt better. Add the scalding cream. Give it a little mix. I'm putting this plate on to sort of retain a little bit more heat, so hopefully it will get better melty. How are my cakes looking? Uh-oh. Looks like they sunk in the center. That's not ideal. Starting to think I'm gonna fail this, Steve. 207, they're done. I'm taking them out. They sunk in the middle. If I had time, if this were not a timed thing, I'd be redoing these right now, but I don't and I can't, so. Let's see how this guy's looking. Again, super thin, but I increased the chocolate by 33%. So if this doesn't work, then it's not my fault. That's what I would tell the judges too. Not my fault. I tried. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let this guy cool at room temp. I'm feeling better about his chances in terms of thickness. And the cakes have only been out for a couple minutes, but I need to get them cooling as fast as possible, so I'm gonna turn them out right now. Cakes collapsed, but that's okay. Whoop. Now I'm going to do something positively mad. I'm gonna get these in the fridge, get them cooling off as quickly as possible. Oh yeah, look at the way that happens. Check this out. I really don't think this is going to become frosting consistency at any time in the near future. This doesn't, I feel like the ratio of this ganache is way off. Here goes. This hopefully will start to cool it off faster. The surface area, the nice cold metal. This should be the kind of ganache that you use to roll into truffles. Like this should be so solid. You use a ratio of 1:1. I went just shy of that, 450 to 400. This should be super thick. We have 34 minutes, so I'm probably just gonna let this cool at room temperature and try not to think about it for 15 minutes. And then if it doesn't solidify, I will put it in the fridge. Okay, 9 seconds, now I can look. It's definitely setting up, but it's definitely still liquid. I'm gonna put it in the fridge. It's the only way I'm gonna get it even close to thick enough to put on a freaking cake. All right, come on, get thick, please. We've been looking around the internet. We've looked at anybody who's recreated the Paul Hollywood chocolate cake, and gotta say, that ganache looks pretty liquidy. I think this recipe might be. I have a perverted curiosity. Since this ganache is mostly heavy cream, I'm wondering, can I whip it? I'm gonna see if I can turn this into chocolate whipped cream. Here we go. Holy cats, that actually worked. So I think what I'm gonna do is probably put this in the center layer. Like I think that's gonna be a nice sort of center layer. This is like mousse now, look at this. It is mousse. I think is this mousse? Is how you make mousse? Time to trim some cakes. There we go. They're still warm. Like, this is impossible. It's gonna be my first tip. Don't try to bake a whole cake in 2 hours. Just a little bit off the top, gov-num. Should I use this as the center layer? It's turning into this weird puffy nonsense. How is this, what is the chemical composition of what I made? What's the worst that could happen, I ask you? I mean, it looks pretty good. Right, like that. Oh, baby, that was close. Oh my God, it's set. I don't believe it, it's set. Okay, don't get too excited, Andy. You're still screwed. Yeah, buddy. Yeah, buddy. Now all I gotta do is cover the freaking cake in it. I'm just gonna do a rough edge, that's all I have time to do. Oh my God. Total collapse. Oh, dude. It's because the center's melting. Oh man. These raspberries are rotten. These raspberries are rotten. There's black spots all over these raspberries. Ah!
There it goes.
Oh man. Here, look, this side's totally fine.
Yeah,
there we go.
30 seconds.
Oh God, it's all coming off. 2, 1, okay, well, there you have it, folks. A little bit of a problem in the back, but up this side, it's still not great. Well, I made a cake in 2 hours, and this is what happens, apparently. I'm gonna clean this up just a wee bit, just so it's not pissing all over the floor. Let's diagnose exactly what went wrong here. First, the cakes did not have enough time to cook. First, the cakes sunk, which didn't ruin their texture, but it did structurally compromise them. And it made it so I had to trim them, which further compromised them. Then the ganache was way too thin, so I whipped it and turned it into a whipped filling, which melted because the cakes were still hot. And the weak part of the cake just completely landslid. Then these raspberries were rotten. It's all up to the judges now. So let's see what they have to say about this nonsense.
Sloppy, shabby chic, homespun, country, pleasant cut. The ganache looks whipped. A nice sponge, a nice bounce. Tastes right. I love the different chocolates I'm experiencing. I like it. Presentation leaves a bit to be desired. A very good job.
What did we learn? A lot. First off, it's really hard to bake a cake in 2 hours and have it cool enough that you can frost it. Second off, there's something wrong with the ganache recipe on the actual Great British Baking Show website. So I'm gonna workshop this a little bit, and we're gonna try making it again and see if we can get it to come out looking exactly like the opening credits. Let's go back to my torso.
All right, so first I'm combining 175 grams of 54% dark chocolate, 150 grams of diced unsalted butter, and 125 milliliters of water. The recipe calls for hot water. I'm not sure why, because this whole thing's headed over to the double boiler, where it's gonna sit over a pan of barely simmering water for 3 to 5 minutes or until almost completely melted. Give it a few gentle stirs, and once it looks like everything's about to melt, take it off the heat and let the residual heat take it the rest of the way. While that cools in the bowl of a stand mixer, we're combining 3 medium eggs, 125 milliliters of room temperature sour cream, 50 milliliters of vegetable oil or other neutral flavored oil, 2 teaspoons of pure vanilla extract, and then please don't let Mr. Hollywood know, but I'm gonna add 1 rounded teaspoon of instant coffee for an extra chocolatey flavor. Go ahead and regular size whisk those together until it's nice and smooth, and then we're adding the sugars, 150 grams each of light brown sugar and 150 grams of granulated sugar, which I'm gonna sift because I have a few crystallized chunks in there. Whisk this stuff together until it's nice and smooth, and after the chocolate mixture has cooled for about 5 to 10 minutes, we're gonna slowly stream it in, whisking constantly until homogeneous. Next up, we're going to sift in 250 grams of all-purpose flour. We're not using self-rising, so I'm going to add baking powder in just a moment. First, 50 grams of cocoa powder, 1 teaspoon of 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon baking powder, and a half teaspoon of kosher salt. Sift those on in, then it's time to very gently whisk everything together, making sure no dry patches remain, but taking care not to overmix. Then we're dividing evenly between 2 oiled and parchment paper lined 8-inch cake pans and baking in a preheated 350-degree Fahrenheit oven for 35 to 40 minutes. A good time to make our chocolate ganache. I'm deviating in 2 ways here from the original recipe. First, finely processing the dark chocolate so that it melts more easily. I'm also increasing it to 450 grams, so that we have a 1-to-1 ratio of chocolate to cream. As we learned during the technical challenge, the posted recipe does not yield a frosting like ganache, so hopefully this higher ratio will give us something we can make a cake with. First, I'm going to cover it and let it sit for 3 minutes, do whatever that was, uncover and gently stir together until things smooth out. Over agitating a ganache is apparently one of the many things that can make it split, so take your time and you should end up with a smooth, glossy ganache. And once again, Mr. Hollywood, avert your eyes because I'm adding a pinch of instant coffee. Once again, this is just going to amp up the chocolate flavor. Another Another trick I picked up during the race against time was spreading the ganache out on a rimmed baking sheet to help it cool more quickly. So I'm going to spread it out evenly, tap out any bubbles, and let it sit for at least an hour. Meanwhile, our cakes are headed out of the oven. They're clocking 205 degrees Fahrenheit at their thickest point. So now we're going to let them cool in the pans for about 10 minutes. Now the best way I can figure to get these cakes out of their pans is using a sheet of parchment paper pressed against a wire rack placed on top. Very carefully flip the whole contraption over, remove the cake pans and the parchment paper lining, and flipping them back over onto the other wire rack. You'll notice that these cakes did not sink that much in the middle. I think it's because I reduced the amount of leaveners, skipping the self-rising flour and reducing the baking soda by a half teaspoon. Now I'm going to let these cool completely and check my ganache, which I'm thrilled to see has thickened to the perfect consistency. So now we're ready to make a cake. I'm placing a little dab of ganache in the center of my cake turntable to keep things in place, using a pizza peel to carefully transfer, and these cakes still sunk a tiny bit, so I'm going to trim off the topmost layer to flatten things out. Once I've visually inspected it and confirmed its flatness, it's time to start frosting, and in place of the whipped ganache, I'm just using the regular stuff, but if you find yourself with liquidy ganache, it's not a bad idea. Get that nice and even, place the second layer on top, take care of any necessary realignments now, because you're going to pay for it later, and no need to trim the top layer, we're just going to start frosting. Pile it high and thick and spread it out with long, even strokes, ensuring a shiny, seamless coating all the way around the cake. All there is to do now is decorate with raspberries. Save, of course, for the one missing raspberry in the corner. All in all, it took me about 3.5 hours to make this cake instead of the competitive 2. So apart from reducing the leaveners in the cake, increasing the ratio of chocolate to cream, and incorporating a little bit of instant coffee, my top tip for making this cake is take your time. I'm stunned that any of the bakers were able to make a functional cake in 2 hours. Also, side note, I just happened to be making this cake on September 2nd, which is my actual birthday, so this is my actual birthday cake. 52 raspberries for 37 years or something. Just gonna light a quick candle, make a quick wish. I don't want to tell you what it is so it comes true, but it was about you guys and it was nice. Now let's cut a slice and see how things turned out. Went a little light with the frosting for the center layer, but all the elements seem to be just about right. But how does the cake from the Great British Baking Show actually taste? And the answer is pretty awesome. The cake is light and fluffy but very moist, the ganache is smooth and silky, and the whole thing is devastatingly chocolatey. I can't think of a better way to celebrate my birthday than here with you guys, so thank you for watching, and don't worry, the Gator Wine ranking episode is coming this Saturday. Thanks again to Saley for sponsoring this episode. I've already downloaded Saley on my phone to get ready for the trip to Japan next month. It's important to me to be able to look up restaurant menus, map directions, and post like normal while I'm abroad, which is why having Saley eSIM is so important. You don't have to worry about scammers selling fake SIM cards at your destination, or waiting in line at the airport to get a local SIM card. That's all in the past. Go to saley.com/Babish, and the first 5,000 people to use code Babish will get a 1 GB Saley data plan for free. Can't beat that. The link is in the description.